Okay, so we're going to continue our lessons on how to use the graphing calculator to help us in Algebra 2. And so the first thing that we want to realize is some new definitions, which you probably have seen and heard these things, but it's just kind of nice to know some of these things. Like, what does an intersection mean? Well, an intersection for us is where two lines are going to cross, or two curves are going to cross, or two functions are going to cross. So, as we can see here, this line actually crosses this parabola in 2 points, and these are their two intersections here and here. An intercept means the exact same thing as an intersection, except it's the intersection with a coordinate axis. So it's an intersection with a coordinate axis in a line. So this is the y-intercept and this is the x-intercept. And you guys have probably seen that and thought about that before. And we're going to learn how to use our graphic calculator to find those kinds of points. I just want you to realize this is what we're thinking of. This is the mental picture that you want to have when I ask for an intersection. We're thinking about where two things are going to cross, and when I ask for an intercept, we're thinking where is it going to cross on one of these coordinate axes. So let's try a problem. Okay, so we're going to want to find the graph, or the x-intercept of the graph y equals 2x squared minus 12. So when I think about this, really what I want to find is, I know this is going to be a U-shape ahead of time. So it's probably going to look something, because it's a square, so it's probably going to look something like this. And so we will really want to find this point right here and this point right here. So let's use our graphing calculator to do that. So I'm going to pull up my grapher, if I can get it to turn on. There we go. I'm going to go y equals 2x squared minus 12. I'm going to hit graph. And that is what it looks like. I probably could make my window, we could zoom out a little bit on the y's to include the whole graph. I didn't really need to do that, but yep, looks something like mine. So I have to find what that point is right there and what that point is right there. And just by looking at the tick marks, it looks like it's somewhere in between 2 and 3. But I don't know exactly where that is. You have a trace button, or you can press the trace button, and you can kind of scroll here, but even there you see that I can't get exactly on that point. Like, I can get close to that point, but it just jumps right past where I really want. And so we want to use our calculator to find what is that point exactly. How you do that is we need to figure out the equation for this line right here, or this axis right here. And the equation for this axis right here, or the x-axis, is y equals 0. And the reason that's true is because what are we really looking for? We're looking for when this hits this line, and this line has no up and down to it. So this line right here is a special equation. This is y equals 0. And so when I look on that graph, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to just put in 0 for y. So that's my second equation. And then when I hit graph, now you'll notice it started graphing again, but I can't see where it graphs. Like, it graphs right on this line right here. So what we do now is, again, we want to figure out where it's going to cross here. And if you hit that trace button, you won't find exactly where it will cross. So we're going to use this calculation tool. So you see right above trace where it says calculate, we're going to hit second, calculate. And there's this intersect button. So we're going to hit intersect, and our first curve is that U shape, so we hit enter. Our second curve, well, now that we graphed the origin, we're going to be able to use that. So I'm going to hit enter for my second curve. It always says guess, and I don't know why it says guess. But then we're going to hit enter. And we're going to get what that point is, which that point is 2.4, 0. So that one is, so we found our first point, which was 2.4, 0. Now, we can see that it's going to intersect on this other side over here, and I'd also like to get that. So I'm going to hit trace, and I'm going to move this dot closer to the other side to let the calculator know, hey, I want to find this one, not this one anymore. I'm going to hit second calculate. I'm going to go to intersect. That's going to be my first curve. That again is going to be my second curve. It's going to ask me to hit guess, so I say yes, so I hit enter. And my other point is negative 2.4, 0. I guess we could have guessed that because it looks like it's the exact same on the other side, but yeah, better safe than sorry. And that would be my two answers for this. So if you're looking for the x-intercepts, the first thing you got to do is graph your original function, and then after graphing your original function, you're going to make sure that you have to graph this line right here so that you can tell your calculator where these two things will intersect. Let's try another example. Okay, so now I have these two equations, and I want to find the intersections between these two. And this is like the example I showed before, because we know this is a U-shape, whoops, and this is a line. So it probably will look something like this. I'm not entirely sure, but I guess we'll get to see when we use our graphing calculator. So I'm going to bring up my graphing calculator again, and I'm going to put in my two new functions, which this one is 2x squared minus 4, and this would be 2x minus 1. I probably should use 1. And then I'm going to hit graph. And yeah, looks something like that. So we want to find these two things. So I'm going to hit trace, and I'm going to kind of go close to that first point. And as you can see, we're kind of far away. So let me just adjust the window so we can get a little bit better of a picture of this to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to hit trace, and I'm going to go close to this point right here. I'm going to hit second calculate. And again, I want an intersection point between those two. And so this point is that nasty point right there. So I don't remember what I just got. 1.8 and 2.6. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to want to find that other point right there. So let's do the same thing. We'll hit that trace button again, move closer to that other point, hit second calculate, go to intersect, hit enter a whole bunch of times, and then it's negative 0.8 and negative 2.6. Okay, so as you can see, finding the intersection point between these things is not actually that hard. You just graph the two functions, and you figure, like, you use this calculate tool, and it really prompts you pretty well because it's like intersect. Now, the only hard part is you do need two lines. Like if I took this away and I wanted to find the x-intercepts of this. So the nice part is you can't actually mess this up. So let's say you wanted to find the x-intercepts. If you try to do second calculate and intersect, it freaks out because it goes, there's no second line for me to do. So if you add in a second line, like if if we wanted an x-intercept, there's our second line. We just need to put in our second line for it to know where we want to intersect it. So that's the big keys to these things. When you're graphing them and when you're figuring out where the intersections, you always have to give it two lines. If you're looking for an x-intercept, your line is that x-axis, so that's y equals 0. If it's anything else, they will just give you 2. And so you just put the 2 in and then you figure out where they cross. Sometimes there will be no intersections, but it will be easy to see. That would be a case where you have something like this. The U shape here, a line down there, so it's never going to cross. Okay. Try the different problems today. If you get stuck, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know.